Hey, New Life Church. If we haven't had the chance to meet, my name is Jordan, and my wife Leah and we just have the amazing privilege of getting to be the pastors at our Clarksville campus. Today, we are in a series called The Table. And I'm so excited because I get the opportunity to talk with you about what may be one of the most famous tables in all of biblical history, and that is the Last Supper. The table where the Last Supper takes place. Now, if you're not familiar with the Last Supper, it is the time that Jesus spent with his disciples, the last moments leading up to his arrest. There's so many little nuggets of information, so many principles to be applied that we find during these last moments. We obviously don't have time to cover them all because of the length of this video, but I do want to share with you a few things that we find that take place at this Last Supper that we can apply to our lives today. So the first thing this afternoon, this morning, whenever you're watching this video, is at the Last Supper, we are reminded to look back. We're reminded to look back. And let me tell you what I mean by that. If you're like me, you probably have trouble remembering things from time to time. In fact, sometimes I walk down the hall to a room, and by the time I get to the room, I don't even remember why I was going to the room. So maybe your memory isn't that bad, but for me, it is. That's why we have to have reminders. That's why I have to have reminders for things. And you probably do too. We have reminders on our phones, on our computers, on our calendars. Maybe you use sticky notes. Maybe you tie a string around your finger. I don't know. But we have to be reminded. And I think Jesus knew that we would need to be reminded of certain things in life. And at the Last Supper, he even told his disciples, do this in remembrance of me. In other words, every time you do this, every time you come together and you take communion, remember me. But it's not just when we take communion. I think that what happened at that table at the Last Supper is a reminder to us every single day of our lives. A reminder of what? A reminder of the life of Jesus and the price that he was about to pay. His crucifixion, his resurrection, the fact that the work has been finished, that we don't have to carry the weight of sin ourselves. We don't have to try to redo the work that Jesus has already completed because it's already been done. And at that Last Supper, around that table, that is a reminder for us that Jesus Christ has finished the work. The second thing about the table of the Last Supper is not only does it remind us to look back, but it also reminds us to look in. Now, why is this important? Because I don't know about you, but there are times when I miss things in my own life. In fact, when Jesus was sitting around that table with his disciples, there comes a moment where he says, one of you, you're going to betray me. And they're all like, no, not me, Jesus. Surely not me. And I can only imagine in that moment what's going through their minds. Well, will I do it? Is there something in my heart, in my life that I don't realize is there? Have I done something to make Jesus think that I would betray him? Have you ever maybe had an upset family member or a spouse or a friend or a coworker, and you start racking your brain trying to figure out, like, was it something I said? Was it something that I did? Did I do something to cause this? As followers of Christ, there are times that the sin in our life goes undetected by us. David was a perfect example of this in the Old Testament. His sin with Bathsheba, you may remember the story. He didn't even realize the gravity of the situation or what he had done. It took another friend in his life calling out that sin. But David learned the hard way that it's not always easy to detect our own sin. But he went on to write a prayer. He prayed to God in Psalm 139 when he said, search me, God. Know my heart. Test my anxious thoughts. And then basically he says, God, show me if there's anything in me that is displeasing to you, any wicked way in me, show me. Let me see it. Why? Because sometimes we miss the sin in our lives. And that's why it's so important for us to have an awareness of our sin, for our eyes to be open to the sin in our lives. The Last Supper reminds us that even the people that are closest to Jesus, that are walking with Jesus faithfully day in and day out, they can miss something. So the Last Supper reminds us to look in. But not only does the Last Supper remind us to look back, not only does it remind us to look in, but it also reminds us to look ahead to the future. In that Last Supper, around that table, Jesus reminded his disciples that he was going away to prepare a place for them. And if he was going away to prepare a place, that meant he would come back and take them with him. This is such a good reminder for us to remember that we have a hope in Jesus Christ because of what he did through his death and his resurrection that we are about to celebrate on Easter. Because of that, we have a hope in him for a future, for all of eternity, that we can gather with him, with the Father, with all of the saints, all of the followers of Christ, and sit around the table together in the presence of God. I hope this afternoon, this morning, that you are encouraged to know that you have a future in Christ when you place your trust in him. And the Last Supper, that table, it reminds us of that hope. Okay, so just to recap, the Last Supper around the table, it reminds us of what? It reminds us to look back, to remember the faithfulness of Christ. It reminds us to look in, to detect the sin in our lives. God, search me, know my heart, show me anything in me that is displeasing to you. And it reminds us to look ahead for the hope and the future that we have in Christ. We love you, church. Hope you have a great day.